Okay, I have a spreadsheet set up here in Excel, and I used a random name generator on the internet to create a long list of names. And the way I set it up in here, I have a first name, last name, a table number, because I want to show this in later videos because one of the most common uses for this is to do table assignments for wedding receptions or something like that. And then I did a name join where I just took this, there's like a formula you use where you can concatenate like one column with one name and with another in another column. So anyway, so once you have your spreadsheet set up, and of course you don't need all this, you could just have one column, first names, that's it. Doesn't have to be nearly as many columns as I have here. I'm setting up something I can use in multiple videos. Okay, so to export, I go to File, Export, and then I'm going to change file type, and I find the file type I want. And the type that you want to use is just the regular old, normal, no fancy, regular CSV, comma delimited. Right? Select that, click on Save As, and then note wherever you're saving it. I'm going to put it on my desktop so that I'll be able to find it, not be stumbling around forever. And if I have it named here, 50names.csv. Great. Click on Save. Now then, over in SCAL6, I've set up a name tag. Now what I did is just used a regular rounded rectangle, and I assigned that on the Style panel to Print plus Cut, Cut Only. Let me move this over. All right, so that the color of this rectangle, it won't print, right? It can't be printed. It can only be cut out. Now then I typed out the word name. Now I didn't do anything to the word name. You can't weld it. You can't do anything like that. Just type it out, right? And then after I typed it out, of course, I picked the font I wanted. I made it nice and small, so there's plenty of room, for a long name. And I centered it in the middle of this rounded rectangle. And also down on the text panel, I also centered it so that, well, it probably won't matter here, but if you had something really long, let's say I had name of person, right? And then the person's actual name comes in and is something really short, like Mel Blanc. Well, it'll be, if you don't center it, then it'll be listed on the left side of what the word name is. So centering is always a good idea also, just kind of a good practice to do that. And of course, you can always go back and change it later. So then the next step is you go to the data source window, which is under Page, Data Source Copies, and then you can also access the same thing over here on the Style panel. Like I could come down here and mark to this drop-down menu, right, and then click on Edit Data Source. It's located in two places. Then the next step is I'm going to basically start my first thing, and I'm just going to call it Name, and then choose New File. So I come over to this Choose button, click on that, and then I go to the desktop, and I find that file that I created. So let's go to Desktop. And then here's that 50names.csv, and then select that, open. Okay, and then the next step is to come down and click on View Data, and that way you can look at the data you have. Now that I had a column header, you may or may not have a column header. If you do, then go ahead and mark that has a column header. And then the column I want to use is, let's say I want to use number 4. So I have the first and last name. So then I would click that, type in 4 because it's the 4th column. And then the data type is text. I should have mentioned that the data source type up here should also be CSV because I'm importing a CSV file. There's other options, but this will be for other videos. So don't get confused by the word text here. Just stick with the fact that if you're importing a CSV file, then or the source of this, then you need to leave that at CSV. Then once I have this, set up and I'm happy with it, then I click on Add. All right, and then it places it right up here at the top. And then once I have that, listed, then I'm ready to say OK. And then next, I select this actual text object that I created. And then over here on the Style panel, I click on Data Source. And I come down to this list, and I should see that name. This is going to be a menu of everything you've created in that data source window. So then I click on Name. And come back to my Style panel. Remember what you're doing with everything. In this case, I'd only be printing the name and not wanting to cut it. So I need to change this cut line type to Print plus Cut, Print Only. All right. And again, the rectangle is set to Print plus Cut, Cut Only. The name is set to Print plus Cut, Print Only. And I've assigned it to, again, select it. I've got to assign to name. Now then under here in the drop down, I can go to the preview window, and in the preview window then you set up your rows and columns. So I'm going to start with number 1, and for the columns I want to have 2 columns, and then for spacing we'll see what it looks like at 0.5, and then click on preview. And then right there I can see, if I zoom in, make the window bigger, if I can, oh, I guess I can't. I can see, I've got the first 2 names, the first 2, name tags are created. So now I'm ready to add rows. So just come down to the rows, and I just start increasing the rows. And unfortunately, it doesn't auto update, so you do need to click on preview ever so often. But as soon as you look, click on preview, then you go, oh, okay, you know what? I don't want the spacing to be quite that big, so I can change that. Let's say 0.2 or something, and then click on preview and see how that looks. And I go, yeah, that looks good. And you might be able to squeeze in another or not. It kind of depends also on your reg mark settings and stuff like that. Then for number of pages, well, it kind of helps if you kind of know what your maximum is. Like right now I've only got 1 page, so I've only got a total of 10. Although if you still have your spreadsheet window open, then you can come back over and have a look at how many names you have. And this is called 50 names. So obviously I have 50 names listed. Yeah, it goes down to number 51. So back in SCAL6, then I know that if I can get, 10 on 1 page, I need 5 pages. So I'm just going to increase this up to 5 and click on preview. And then I can check each of the different pages and make sure that they all look correct. Okay. And then once I'm happy with the way that all seems to look, then I can click on make pages. And if you just want to make 1 page, you could just make, like 1 page or a series of pages. But, normally you're kind of ready to just go ahead and make the pages. And of course, you can always delete the pages if you're unhappy with it. Or if you have 1,000 names, you might be pushing the limits with the software. So you might want to just do, let's say, how about I just do 10 pages at a time? All right. So then once you do that, then down here, you'll see your page numbers, and they will keep increasing based on how many times you've changed things or redone things, gone back in the window or whatever. So don't take these too literal, right? There's not another 19 pages or something missing. This is just a page assignment. And of course, you can always go back and rename these just by double clicking and giving it a new name. But either way, basically that's all you have to do. And so at this point, then you're ready to print, or you might want to come back here. You may have to auto center to the page for each one of these, depending on where your reg marks are, which assuming you'd have reg marks. So you'd come back and you'd center this. Oops, let's change that back. Let's change that back. Let's group it first, right click group. Then you can center to page. Right. And then, again, wherever your reg marks are, I don't know where mine are currently set. Okay, that's not what I want. So your reg mark settings, of course, are under cutter settings, and you can set those instead of by design. I usually do by print bounds, and then something like 0.25 of an inch. And then let's have a look at that. Oh, and then I don't need these to be so large either. This can be 0.25. And then let's have a look at that. All right, where's the reg marks? There we go. That looks better. So anyway, that's basically the way the process works. And as always, if you have any questions, please do let me know.